Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Oh, welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. I am Matt Roy. This is Chuck Miketinac. We are back and better than, well, I don't know about better than ever. I'm still getting over a sickness here, but thanks to Zach Hedrick for filling in for me for a couple days.
It reminds me of a song. Are you down with the sickness? No? By the way,
everything
Disturbed coming to San Antonio with nothing more in the spring. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
I mean, I'm sure I know where you'll be.
Hopefully, yes.
Is that the song with the monkey scream in it?
Wah! I can't even do it. Wah!
Isn't there always a monkey scream in
There should
those
be.
songs?
That should be mandatory like cowbell.
Anyway, I kind of sound like that right now. My voice is still on the mend. On Saturday, if you heard me, I had literally zero voice. Like I was
just the way we like you, Matthew.
I would have had to get like right here for just to whisper in someone's ear, which was bad because we were out in downtown Durango, which was really fun. But
dude, I think I might be going there for Christmas, so I'm going to need to get some tips on where to go.
Oh, I got plenty. Plenty. Well, I had a great time in Durango. Durango, Colorado is where I went to school. For those of you who don't know, Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, and it was a blast. I went back with a couple of buddies of mine that I played football there with. It was a lot of fun. But happy to be back in the chair, talking all things Spurs and Cowboys and whatnot. So before we get started in full, want to remind everyone to follow our YouTube or subscribe to YouTube channels News 4 Fox SA. If you're so inclined, download, rate, review, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app. Helps us out a lot. This is October 17th, Thursday, episode 143. Cowboys are on a bye, so I didn't think we were going to talk about them much today, but then Jerry Jones threatened to fire radio hosts. So we're going to talk about that because just so happens that on a bye week, he wants to get a few more headlines. So we're going to talk about that here in a sec. Plus, I got a chance yesterday sit down with Jacob Tobey, the new voice of the Spurs. Very nice kid. I don't know why I'm saying kid. He's 27. I'm only 29 next week. So anyway, so
you've been hanging around me and Don too long, and I know we gotta break the mold.
I really have been hanging out with you guys too much.
Literally everybody feels like a kid at my age. So
well, very nice guy. He actually the station that he worked at 9 News in Denver. A friend of Jordan and I's, Scotty Gange, actually worked with him at his last station. So it's a really small world, this broadcasting industry. But sat down with him yesterday, very long, candid, insightful interview. We'll play the whole thing here in just a little bit. Plus, we'll talk about the Spurs preseason, what we've seen from them so far. The last game is tonight on Fox SA. So if you are so inclined, tune in for that tonight on at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock tip.
It is a 7 o'clock tip, and we have TNL, of course, on CWSA. So, and we got a lot of sports traffic on the stations these days.
You know, you could do if you have YouTube TV, multi-view that stuff. Multi-view it. Get Chuck and Don and I on the TNL side. Get Fox SA, Jacob Tobey, Sean Elliott, Wemby on the right side, and you'll be perfect. But first, a little bit of trivia time. The San Antonio Spurs are one of 2 ABA teams still active to ever win an NBA title. The Spurs, the only one to ever win multiple titles. Who is the only other ABA team to ever win an NBA title?
Bob, help me out here. I should know this.
I don't know.
Don would
know this
instantly. Yes.
Did the Pacers ever win one?
No,
that is one of the teams. So that's a good guess. You only have 2 other options.
Oh, really?
There's only 4 teams. Spurs are 1. The Pacers are 1. The Pacers have never won a title.
I don't know.
The other 2?
I'm trying to go like East Coast and then work my way. I'll stay here all day. It's not going to come to me.
Though the teams are the Utah Jazz, the Denver Nuggets, the Pacers, and the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, well,
so
then you just answered the question.
There you go. The Denver Nuggets are the only other ABA team.
I should have known that.
To win a NBA title.
Okay.
The Spurs, obviously, the only team to win multiple titles and the only team to win 5 titles because they have 5 now.
And to win all the titles but 1.
Exactly.
From the ABA.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anyway, let's get to Jerry Jones and his radio issues. So I want to lay this out as plainly as I can. For people who don't know, I don't know how you don't know yet or how you haven't heard it yet. But on Tuesday, Jerry Jones made his weekly appearance on Dallas's flagship radio station, 105.3 The Fan, as he's done for like 15 years now. I think he actually shows up there twice a week. I think he does Tuesdays and Fridays with them. This time, got a bit contentious. The hosts, RJ and Shan, asked Jerry what every fan has been asking. What the hell happened in the offseason? You had no offseason spending. How do you respond to the criticism that you've been getting for the last few months? And this is what he had to say.
What's your point? What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why. A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong? And without going over the rights, and I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning.
Not talking to these yahoos. Later that day, Jerry Jones kind of doubling down, talking to Diana Rossini, saying, quote, I don't know that I would go as far as calling the volume connotation as yelling, okay? But the facts are that if I'm going to be grilled by the tribunal, I don't need to be the guys I'm paying. I can take it from fans and take it from other people. I take a lot of pride in how fair and how much I work with the media. We're brothers and sisters, but I was a little frustrated there today. The wrong ones were doing the questioning. Now, if those had been real fans sitting there, or if there had been people that knew that that knew what they were talking about, football people, I might have had a different answer. Chuck, the yahoos on the radio are about to be fired by Jerry Jones because they're asking questions that fans want to know.
I don't think he's going to fire anybody. I mean, I think, I heard just about everybody's take on this, and it seems like everybody does have a take on it, which is obviously speaks to the popularity of the Dallas Cowboys or people's vested interest in what goes on there. And for me, this just sounds like a guy, Jerry, who has had enough of being the punching bag for all these many weeks, right? Normally, Jerry will take it, and he's better than anybody when it comes to taking criticism. He does it better than anybody that I can think of in sports. He welcomes it, and he's willing to, bury the hatchet the next day and let bygones be bygones, all of that. I'm not saying anybody's take is wrong on this, but he answered the question from the radio announcers, and I'm not sure that they necessarily liked the answer that they got, and then they stayed on it. Matt, we're week 7 into this season, and I mean, if this is going to, of course, the question's probably still now going to come because somebody else is going to be looking to make a splash in this regard. At some point, we have to move on. This is a 3-3 team that's really banged up, that doesn't play very well a lot, especially in their blowout losses. They're not even competitive. There are a lot of things you can look at and criticize, and I think, quite frankly, more interesting topics of conversation than all the things that Jerry did or did not do during the offseason. So I'm not saying it's wrong, and if that's where everybody's interest lies or where the narrative is, so be it. I think Jerry crossed the line by calling them a bunch of yahoos and belittling them in, kind of putting on his billionaire hat and, hey, man, I'm running the show. I've got the biggest franchise on planet Earth, all those things. But I don't know. I just think it's funny how this is, reporters making a stand as if it was morally safer and,
here's where I'll punch
Ed
back.
Bradley up there asking questions. I mean, come on, it's a football show. We're talking football, and we're blaming the owner and what he didn't or didn't do because he's too cheap and all the other stuff that doesn't make any sense. He's not cheap. That's to me, it's irrelevant.
I mean, he's a little cheap.
He's not cheap. I mean, how does Explain that to me.
They've spent the least amount in the offseason of any team over the last 5 years.
Okay, so who's got the highest paid quarterback? Who's got one of the highest paid wide receivers?
They didn't have to be okay. This is a different conversation.
No, but that's my point. Is maybe everybody's aim and where they're going with Jerry is apt. I mean, yeah, blame him for overpaying Dak, overpaying CD, whoever. But to use the narrative that he's too cheap, that doesn't. Come on, man. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it really, to me, that's where I get lost in this argument. I mean, the blame for me, why they're in such a tough spot with their salary cap is because they've overpaid too many guys and they're on the hook for too many bad contracts. But the narrative is he's too cheap to go get Derrick Henry. I mean, again, I just don't see it that way. Maybe you do. I simply do not.
All right. So, as far as like they continue to ask the question, I think they didn't continue to ask the same question. They followed up on something he had already said. He basically was like, I don't get any credit for what we did in the 90s or what we did in the 2000s, which is just, let me play you the frickin' violin here.
Right.
Okay. Like you fired Jimmy Johnson for not getting credit and then you hired Barry Switzer and you won another Super Bowl. Congratulations. That was 29 years ago. Like, get over it, man. You haven't done anything in 29 years, and you're getting questioned for not doing anything this offseason because you did not do anything this offseason. And if he'd never said the words all in, he probably wouldn't have half of the questions that he's getting right now. But instead of doing something this offseason, instead of going all in like he wanted to go all in on, and I think we have deciphered that he didn't really mean all in on spending, he meant all in on the guys that he had in the roster. But
yeah,
if he didn't make these kinds of declarations, he wouldn't be getting these kinds of questions. If he didn't put himself out there on a Tuesday and a Friday or every single game outside of the locker room speaking before your players can talk, you're the one that signed up to get the slings and arrows. And to be able to go out there on this radio show and belittle the hosts that you've been talking to for 15 years, it just puts everybody off. And I think that's for a good reason.
I mean, I can't argue and say that you're wrong, right? I mean, some of this he does bring on himself. I mean, in this, if you're going to basically sell your team as an open book, which he has, and thank God he has, because he's the last of a dying breed in terms of accessibility, access to players. You know, we were talking about the Chuck Cooperstein take the other day about, I can't believe that an owner would do this, and talks before his players. Thank God he does. If you're a guy like me on a deadline and you've got 90 minutes to flip a story and he's going to tell you what he sees or what he felt like happened in the game, you know, that, again, that's a conduit to fans getting the message, or at least him getting his take on things, and then everybody gets to see it. I don't have a problem with his accessibility. In fact, I welcome it. I hope he continues to do that, because when he leaves or sells the team or, you know, whatever happens in the future, like that's going to dry up there too. And then everybody's going to be complaining. It's like, man, I remember the good old days when Jerry had everybody in there. I mean, look around, look at the landscape everywhere, whether it's Spurs or, you know, high quality or high end college football. I mean, these are entities that, you know, it's hard to get fan accessibility in terms of through the media because they do everything in-house right now. So, I mean, again, yes, Jerry takes a lot of this on himself, but, you know, again, I'm grateful that he's there for it. And again, he's better at anybody at taking the criticism. And I think he would own the fact that they're at a point where they're at 3-3, teams beat up, but this is the bed they've made. And now they've got to figure out how best to navigate going forward with the situation that they're under right now. And, you know, we'll see how they end up doing it, but, you know, he's probably frustrated. I mean, it was hard to watch coming off that football game. And if the questions are still going to be what you didn't do during the off season, I mean, again, we still got a whole season left to go.
Well, and the questions are also, how do you fix the team in season? And they're not going to go out and trade for a second wide receiver. They're not going to go out and trade for a running back, even though they don't have a run game. They're not going to go out and make these moves on the offensive line. What about some depth on your D-line or your linebackers, since you're so banged up there? No, they're not going to do it because they claim they don't have the money to do it. If you're going to say, if you're going to get up there and speak every week, you have to have some answers for this. And if your answer is we can't afford it, then you're going to be called cheap. And that's just what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, they're saving some of that money because they're going to have to pay 11 at some point, right? And how pissed off is Cowboy fan going to be if they don't pay 11 because they don't have the money to do it, and 11 can get money somewhere else? I mean, again, we could split this a million different ways. To me, it all comes down to, with them, they've overspent on too few of guys, and now you're paying the price with the rest of your roster, especially when it comes to depth. I mean, if they get some of these horses back in the next couple of weeks, let's see what happens. In other words, if they can get healthy. But if they're going to be this banged up with that much talent that's right now on the roster, they're not going to probably win another game the rest of the season.
I think that he under anticipated how much flack he was going to get. And I think he's tired of getting it, because you saw
That's
it.
fair.
You saw it on Sunday when someone asked, is there going to be a head coaching change? And he said, do you think I'm an idiot? Do you? Like asking a literal question to a reporter. What's the reporter going to say? Yes. Like, no, of course he's not going to say yes, but you could tell he was kind of tired of those questions.
Yes.
And you can do the same thing on Tuesday. Like, he was already sick of answering these questions. We're in week 6, or we're now in week 7. So I think that he's just getting a little sick of it, and he let his frustration boil over. But you brought the frustration onto yourself. You brought the questions onto yourself. And so if you're going to be a dick about it, then don't do this to yourself. You are laying in the bed that you made.
Well, he's, again, better than anybody at not usually lashing out. It's very rare that he does lash out. So I agree. He's 100% frustrated. And, it's a shame that, the two radio guys took the brunt of it. Although, again, called him yahoos and threatened him a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, they've also spoken to their boss. I think they went on with, one of them went on with Dan Patrick yesterday, I think, and said that their boss supports them 100%. They're not going to be fired or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and they're, it's a contract agreement between the Cowboys and the radio station. So, again, Jerry probably felt like he was going to a safe zone. He felt like he answered the question. Let's go on. There's other topics. I'm only here for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Much ado about nothing, but Jerry wins again. He dominates the headlines even during the bye week.
I don't know if he won this one. Let's get to the Spurs here real quick.
He won in terms of dominating the narrative and the stream for a couple days.
Yeah, he didn't win in the court of public opinion.
Probably not, but
anything.
It's P.T. Barnum.
Just that Jerry did like the silent part out loud, right? This probably happens all over the place, right? Where you're supposed to only ask certain questions and you're not supposed to do certain things, on radio shows and stuff like that. But just so happened this time he actually said it out loud.
Well, there was the guy, I think it was RJ, went on with Dan Patrick, and he was like, they don't give us questions to ask. They just trust us to ask questions. And there's been nothing for 15 years. There's been nothing that's been off limits except for the Colin Kaepernick stuff, which they thought they had already answered. And so he didn't really want to talk about that. And then Jerry has a longstanding rule, don't ask me about my family. So they don't really ask those questions. But anything football wise is on the table, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
apparently not.
I've never, again, like he may say, he'll give you a short answer and say, I'm not talking about that, especially like in regards to the family. But
in contract,
I don't remember him ever backing away from a question. I mean, that's part of the reason why there's so many media that follow him, because you're going to get we're not talking about that, or thanks guys, 2 questions into whatever it is. I mean, we get that all the time too. So, again, it's just fascinating that he did lose his crap. So he clearly is frustrated.
Yeah. Any questions or anything like that?
Tom Guerrero from the business office.
Tom Guerrero. Shout out Tom Guerrero.
Shout out to Tom Guerrero.
As long as JJ's in charge, this will continue to happen. The head coach knows what he needs, but he has no say-so.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, one more point on that. That's the one thing I've noticed too, kind of like McCarthy's let a couple things out. Remember during the offseason, right before the draft, they had a pre-draft press conference, and McCarthy said, man, I hope we go get a running back in this draft.
He didn't.
And they didn't. Right. So, again, little hamstrung there. And
in fact, Jerry talked up Jonathan Brooks, who was the best running back in this draft, and then he got taken right before the Dallas pick.
So, maybe, if you look at that too, it's maybe they should have drafted for need as opposed to drafting what they felt like was the best player available. But again, we're in week 7, man. At some point, you got to turn the page. They're 3-3 and in the mix, in the division, and there's a lot of big ball games ahead. So, at some point, you can live in what they did or did not do in the past in terms of who they did or did not sign in the offseason, or who they overpaid or who they didn't overpay. At some point, this is what you have. Now let's see if they can go win some ball games.
All right, we're going to get to our Jacob Tobey interview here in a minute, but I do want to ask before we get started. We've had 4 Spurs preseason games so far. We've seen a couple, a little appetizer, a little taster of Wemby and this new roster. What have been your thoughts so far?
Well, I thought, interestingly enough, the other night when they went smaller, I kind of liked what I saw on the floor. I mean, the ball moved and they were able to get up and down the court very quickly. Defensively, with some of the smaller lineups, I thought they played pretty well. I mean, I was just trying to think, and maybe you've got the answer to this. I mean, who's going to start? I mean, they got a lot of guys that I think are playing fairly well. I think, the thing that I've been looking a lot at, mostly because the lineups have been so varied, is plus or minus. I think that says a lot. And I think
Jeremy's is pretty low.
He was actually not bad the other night.
In the first game, it was.
Right. And then the other night, it wasn't bad. But, watching him, like, he fumbled a lot of balls. And looking at his stats, he scored the ball pretty well and he shot the ball pretty well because he was shooting the ball around the basket. But, overall, I felt like, statistically, he maybe played better than I thought he did with the eye test. But, like, Castle's another guy that when he's on there, the plus minus always seems to be in the plus, and things seem to happen in a positive way. Champagny, I feel like he's got to be out there because of his range, from the outside. So, again, just watching how they're kind of divvying things up. Keldon's moving pretty well. There were just some units, especially that first unit that they subbed in. I felt like all of a sudden they're getting up and down the court and they're making things happen and they're looking to run more than they normally would. And so it's been interesting.
Yeah, I think one of Pop's signature lines is the player's job is to make Pop play you. He's to make me being Pop, look dumb for not having you on the court. And I think the person who's done that the best in these 4 preseason games is Stephon Castle. If you don't have that guy on the court for 25 to 30 minutes a game, I don't know what you're doing. He is one of the most athletic guards I've seen in a very long time. He's had a couple of dunks that have just rocked my soul, and the cavities in the defender's teeth. It's unbelievable. He very much has the potential to be the best rookie in this class in a relatively lower class for sure. But I think that I've been very impressed by him. I think that the Wemby CP3 connection is going to come. It might take a few games to adjust to. Still not sold on Jeremy. I think that Jeremy's a good player and can be a good player on a bad team. I don't know how good of a player he can be on a good team, how much of a role player he can be, if he's going to be that Dennis Rodman type guy, if he's going to be an energy guy off the bench. I feel like him and Keldon play similar roles in that scenario where they're energy guys that come in with that second unit. As far as starters go, I don't know how you don't have Castle in there, but where does that leave Devin Vassell? Where does that leave CP3? I mean, Devin Vassell's not going to start at the beginning of the season. Maybe he moves to the small forward position, move Harrison Barnes to the 4, and then move Wemby to the 5. I mean, they have a lot of pieces where you can mix and match.
I know, and I think that's what's fascinating about watching how the preseason's unfolding right now, because they've used varied combinations, and it is interesting to see how some guys seem to play better together than they do with other guys. And is that going to translate every single time out, or is it going to get better if they move this piece over here and this, over time? Do they play differently with CP3 and Wemby in there as opposed to having a smaller lineup in there? I mean, I think they do, right? I think they're going to play slower with Chris Paul and Victor and try to slow things down a little bit and play in more half-set situations or half-court set situations. And then, the other guys, I don't know, it was kind of fun watching them get out and do track meet stuff. And yeah, they're a little slow with transition defense right now, but I think you would expect that, early on in the preseason. I mean, you've got to figure out how to score the basketball, right? That's where I think they really need to make the leap. And then, let's see what they do in terms of trying to build a defense over time, because, again, the fail-safe on that end of the floor is Victor too. I mean, It makes up for a lot and changes the way other teams have to play offense.
A lot of changes for the Spurs this year. And one of the most of note is in the broadcast booth. You got Jacob Tobey taking over for Bill Land. Going to get into our conversation here with Jacob Tobey here. I talked to him yesterday about all things basketball, to his Native American heritage, which he is very proud of, to his love of music, and of course, how excited he is to take over for Bill Land as the voice of the Spurs. So this is my conversation with Jacob Tobey.
You got 4 games in here. It's probably been a whirlwind, announced just a few days before the game started. So what have these first 4 games been like for you?
A whirlwind for sure. You know, this is it's amazing to see hard work come through and come true. You know, a dream that I've had since I was 10, 12 years old come true. I think like I'm still not believing that I'm play-by-play guy for the Spurs. Like, it's weird to still say and think about, like, it's not normal yet, and that's good. I was actually talking with Sean about that on the plane. I was like, I don't feel it's like it's normal yet. But it's amazing. You know, I love to sit down and do a game. Like, that's my favorite thing in the world to do. So when I get to walk into an NBA arena, whether it's the Frost Bank Center or, you know, in Miami a couple nights ago or here in Houston, like, it's a thrill to just be able to sit there and talk about the game with someone that means so much to the community like Sean does, and get to pick his brain and get excited. As you know, I'm a fan of basketball, so like whenever you hear me call a game, like, it's gonna get loud sometimes. Like, I'm excited about what's going on the court with the Spurs. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's been amazing. It's been a crazy couple weeks just trying to get acclimated to the city and, you know, just how the Spurs do things. But it's, you know, everyone here has been amazing. The coaches, the players, front office, like the whole staff here is one of one. And so it's been a dream come true.
What's that moment like for a dream to come true?
Yeah, you know, it's like, I always thought it could happen, but you still have some doubt here and there when you're on this journey. Like, when I'm driving my car alone, you know, 2 hours away to a game in Wyoming, and I live in Denver, or I'm driving, you know, when I was working in Tulsa, Oklahoma, doing local sports, but I wanted to do play-by-play, so I would drive 3 hours to go do a junior college basketball game. And you like try to envision this working out and hoping that it comes true. And so I kind of envisioned how it would feel, but I never actually obviously felt it until it happened. And so, you know, when I got the call, I knew it would change my life and change the way I wanted to my career to go. And, you know, calling games is my favorite thing to do. So to feel it, to see it come true is it's crazy. It's insane. But again, like, I put in the work. So like, it's not surprising, but it still is at the same time, because of just how hard it is to get these jobs, man. Like, this is hard. This is a hard thing to do. And there's so many steps to it. And it's subjective, as you know. This whole business is subjective. So it's not like you're taking a test or anything. You need a certain score. So it's I'm blessed. I'm blessed. You know, I'm happy. I'm super thankful to the Spurs for bringing me into the family, because it's not something that they've been used to doing. You know, Bill was there for 21 years. They've had stability there for a while. So this was a new process for them. And I'm just grateful that they wanted to bring me in.
Yeah, you mentioned Bill. I mean, obviously, Mama has been around forever, and so is Bill. What is there any pressure filling in now, filling those shoes and going alongside Sean?
No, I don't think so. Like, I have so much respect for Bill and look up to him. And again, he called me, you know, the night before our first game, and we had a great conversation over the phone, and we're going to get lunch soon. You know, I get back into town, and no, I don't look at it as pressure. I look at it as, you know, a slight challenge of trying to hold up the standard that he has set for 20 years. And hopefully I can, you know, hold that standard and bring it even further and be in the community like he was, and be around everyone and be there for anyone. So no, I don't look at it. I don't put that sort of pressure on myself. I just want to call a good game. I want to have great interaction with Sean, have a great chemistry with him. Our production team is the best in the business. So like, being able to work with them is great. And I've known them for a little while now. So it feels like I'm home, which is really nice. You know, I sat down in that chair to do the open for the first time, and I just felt like this is where I want to be. This is what it's meant to happen. And so I don't take it as pressure. I just take it as, 10-year-old Jacob Tobey would be thrilled to sit in any chair in an NBA game. Not only, that, but the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, this up and coming team, like it's the best place to be right now in the NBA. And so no pressure, just excitement, and want to get better every single night.
When someone asks you, how is a Jacob Tobey called game maybe different than a Bill Land called game? How do you think that you differ from something that Spurs fans might have listened to over the past 20 some odd years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, I'm a younger guy, so, and I don't run away from that either. Like, I'm 27. I totally understand it. I'm young. But, there's maybe verbiage or phrases that young kids use these days that I'll obviously know about because I'm on social media or whatever, or I'm talking to people. So that stuff maybe comes up sometimes, maybe on dunks or whatever, so like that's maybe a little bit different. Obviously, like the excitement for the Spurs is the same. I mean, it's total excitement for San Antonio and being super happy whenever they're on TV and just bringing that experience to the fans. I understand it because I grew up in Massachusetts watching and listening to Mike Gorman, who called Celtics games for 40 plus years. And so I know what it feels like to be a fan that's, enthralled with one broadcaster, to be in love with that one guy. I've been there before. I lived it. And so I totally understand where Spurs fans are coming from. So, but at the end of the day, like I'm me, I'm going to be me. I don't need to be Bill. Bill was great. Bill's the GOAT, and it'll stay that way forever. And so I'm going to be Jacob and bring a little different aspect to the game in that sense. With the way I see the game and the way Sean and I interact. But that's I look at it that way. I don't look at it as like, it has to be different. I am different. So it is what it is.
You mentioned your verbiage and maybe a little bit younger, a little bit different. If I hear Riz on the broadcast, I'll know it was you for sure.
Yeah.
You also posted this video with Sean where you had to go onto his phone and follow yourself. How has that been? How's the rapport with Sean been? And kind of bringing the slightly older man along with you on the technological front.
Again, like he's Sean, and so he's super. He's awesome. He's funny. But like my first shoot around game day, I go there and I thought I would see him, and like he was over there, but he didn't even come over and say hi. And so I razzed him for it on the broadcast, and I'll never let him forget it. By the way, so. But it's great. I helping him with social media stuff. Again, I'm the young guy, so that's my job. To be on there and help with that stuff. So it's great. I get to pick his brain. I have so much respect. He's been in that chair for a long time and was a great player. And I think like we have fun just sitting there. Like it's funny, like whenever something great happens and it's a big, Spurs moment, like he just sits there and laughs because like that's his enjoyment. And I get hyped for that stuff. I make a loud call and then you just hear Sean laughing and then, we dive a little bit deeper into it. So it's been great. He's been super nice. He calls me young fella. He's like my big bro. And I love that. I love that relationship so far. It's been wonderful. He's my buddy on the team playing. We sit next to each other and just talk hoops, talk shop, talk about everything. He loves his wine. So he's going to teach me a lot about that this year, which is great. He's like my big brother. And I wouldn't want anyone else to guide me through an NBA season other than, Sean Elliott, like the dude of San Antonio.
Yeah, I think he and Pop will both share that love of wine with you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If Spurs fans are to ask, who is Jacob Tobey? How do you tell them that in 1-2 sentences?
Yeah, Jacob Tobey is a hoop head. He's a lover of all sports, and he just loves to entertain, whether it's in sports broadcasting or, in music. Like I play music and I sing and play guitar, and hopefully, fans will see me out there when I get acclimated to the city, like out at restaurants and different venues playing live local music. And that's a big passion of mine. And so, I have these two things in my life that are equally meaningful. I've pursued one of them to a greater extent than the other, and that being broadcasting. But like, that's me. Like I've been entertaining since I was 5 years old, playing music since then, doing recitals, playing in bands at school, doing theater, doing play-by-play, doing school radio, TV station, newspaper. Like I've I've dedicated my life to this. And so what I want people to realize is like, you're going to get 1,000% effort on my end to be on this team, on this job. You know, I told everybody that I interviewed with, you know, that, and especially RC Buford, like I told RC Buford, I want this to be my life. Like, this is what I've wanted my whole life. And so you're going to get, you know, all of that with me. You're going to feel that energy with me. You're going to feel that desire to be courtside every night, to be with Sean, to talk about the game. And I use all those experiences, you know, those Division III games, the junior college games, high school games that I did. And I did some G League stuff for the Spurs. I did G League stuff for the NBA. I did Summer League. And so you build and build and build and get to this point. And so I have all those experiences. Now, again, young, first year in the NBA, there's going to be bumps in the road. I totally get it. I don't run away from that. I embrace it. And the goal is to get better each and every night. But at the same time, I'm super happy with where I'm at right now. And yeah, so you kind of get both things from me. You get the basketball sports side, you get the music side. And I love being around family and my dog and all that stuff too.
You mentioned being into the music side of you. If you had a go-to song to play, if I was just give you a guitar and say, all right, play a song, what song is that?
Yeah, it depends. You know, it really, like, I play so much different stuff. Because like I just play whatever people like. I ask people for requests, and I have, you know, 300 songs in my catalog and a lot of covers. I write some music too. You know, I'm a big Kenny Chesney guy in country music, Morgan Wallen. I'm a big, you know, pop music guy, Ed Sheeran, John Mayer. Like those are my guys.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if I had to pick one song, I'm gonna go "Lovey Dovey." Perfect by Ed Sheeran is a, you know, love song, but it's my favorite one to play live. I've played it live ever since it came out in 2017 or whatever it was. So that's the one. Sappy, sad, lovey.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. It is. So that's the one I go to, man. That's the one.
Can't go wrong with Ed Sheeran. So you spoke about being a hoop head, obviously starting out in Massachusetts. Where did the love of basketball start? Where did the love of basketball really originate for Jacob Tobey?
Yeah, I mean, my mom played in high school. My dad did not. You know, he was more the music side of my family. So my mom was athletic, and she was one of the best high school softball players in the state, and basketball players as well. And she kind of just brought me up in that world of sports. And you know, I started, you know, watching the NBA, watching the Celtics, and wanted to be Mike Gorman, wanted to be an NBA announcer. And you know, we took a trip to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2012, and I fell in love with the game there. That was where I really, really wanted to pursue this thing. And there was like a old radio booth there that you could go into and pretend that you were an NBA announcer calling these famous moments in NBA history. And I remember announcing when Havlicek stole the ball. You know, this is a black and white video or whatever it was, and I was announcing it into like a radio with my dad sitting right there, my best friend Anna sitting right there, and just pretending to be an NBA announcer. So like I always go back to that moment as like the defining moment where I said I'm going to dedicate every single piece of my soul to this, and so I can try and pursue it and hopefully get to the NBA.
And then once you go to Tulsa, you go to Denver, and come out here. What is it about San Antonio and the Spurs and all of that made this opportunity interesting?
They're just special. They're a special bunch of people here. Like that, everyone has been so nice, so generous. Everyone's so smart that I've ran into with the organization. Everyone understands the game. Doesn't matter what your position is with the team, they understand the game, and that's, you know, not everywhere. Not everyone's as into it as you would think, and so that aspect of it. And I think, you know, San Antonio is a very, very nice city. From, you know, I'd never been, and so I just heard great things about it, you know, things about Austin and what the Spurs want to do in Austin moving forward. And I've been to Austin before, so I've lived a little bit of that. So an up and coming team, Wemby. How do you say no to Wemby? And the greatest coach of all time, and Coach Pop, and like, so there's all these little things that add up to make this, again, like I said, the place to be in the NBA. Like the Spurs are coming, if not, you know, this year, surely soon. You know, the development is coming, has already happened last year. They get some vets this year. And so it's on the upward swing. And so what an opportunity and a privilege for me to come in and get to watch year 2 of Wemby, the growth of the young guys. So a lot of it is centered around that. But the general, you know, San Antonio, Austin way of living really appeals to me. I lived in Oklahoma, like you mentioned. And so I've lived in this part of, you know, the U.S. before. And so some of my closest friends are from Tulsa. So, and I'm an East Coast guy. Never thought about in my life living here at all. But when I moved to Tulsa, you learn there's other stuff out there besides the East Coast. And I wouldn't change the world. I wouldn't have done anything differently. And I'm just super, super happy to be here, man.
Obviously, it seems like there's been a lot of torches passed here. There was, you know, the Duncan, Manu, Tony years, and now they're passed to Victor. And then there was the Bill Land era that's now passed to Jacob Tobey. Does that that symbolism there kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, it's cool. But again, like, yes, like Bill Land, you know, passes the torch to Jacob Tobey, but man, at the end of the day, it's about the players. I don't want it to be about me per se. I want to enhance the game as much as possible. I want to be there for the fans as much as I can be. You know, I am a fan. And so, like, I understand how they feel. Like, I've been in that seat. And so I want to bring that experience to television and, again, pick Sean's brain and have a really great relationship with him. And so, yeah, there is a torch passed. I have a long way to go to even sniff Bill Land's stature in this town and in this city, and that's fine with me. I'm ready to work for it. But at the end of the day, it's about the torch being passed from, you know, the Spurs' old winning success to now a new regime with Wemby. So we'll leave it at that first, and then down the line we can revisit the other torch passing potentially.
Last two things for you. Obviously, you're also very into your Native American heritage and whatnot. You've mentioned it on multiple occasions. Can you kind of tell me and our viewers a little bit about that and where you where you're kind of from? Yeah, so I am from a town called, and it's funny, people make fun of me, it's called Sandwich, Massachusetts, but it is a real town. And the town over is called Mashpee, Massachusetts, and that's where my Native American tribe is from. It's called the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and a tribe that met the Pilgrims when they first came over here. And it's a small tribe, but very meaningful, very powerful, you know, to be here for a long time like that. And just over the last couple of years have really found a connection and tried to do my best to be there. You know, I've done a couple Native American basketball tournaments. It's called NABI. We go out to Phoenix every year and bring the best teams from all around the country that are all Native teams to play in a tournament, and I broadcast those games. And that's where I really felt a true connection to it and wanted to be more involved. And so it means a lot. You know, my family has been here for a long time in this, you know, on this land, in this country, you know, whatever you want to call it. And so I want to connect with the people in San Antonio here, and you know, because there's a long history in Bexar County as well with Native Americans. And so for someone young to see someone like me doing what I'm doing that's Native American that may not think they can get there, like, that's important to me, man. That's big. Like, I didn't have anyone like that growing up for me. And now I still just figured out I wanted to do it and I got there. But, like, it helps when you have people to look up to and watch and just get, like, a sense of how you do things. And so I want to be there for those kids. Eventually, maybe, you know, start a Native American basketball camp in San Antonio. I think at some point that's like a goal of mine. And so we'll get there eventually. But yeah, just letting people know. And, you know, I'll wear a Native American tie on the air at times, a bolo tie that was handmade, given to me by my cousin Rennie. It has an oak tree in the middle, which is an emblem for my Native American name, which is Strong Oak. And so that's powerful. I got that this summer. And so I'll wear that on the air. I'll talk about it. And, you know, for the few Native Americans that are in the NBA, that are playing in the NBA, there are just a couple, but they're, you know, really, really good NBA players.
I'm going to bring it up and talk about it. You know, they're not on the Spurs, but that doesn't mean that we can't amplify that, because it's rare right now. And to have someone playing in the NBA that's Native American, and then to have someone commentating that is Native American, it's going to be pretty historic. So I will share those stories for sure. Won't back down from that, and I will get involved in the community in San Antonio, you know, any way I can.
Yeah, I went to school in Durango, Colorado, down there in the southwestern at Fort Lewis College, and there's so much Native American history and so many tribes down there and whatnot. So there's definitely a lot of kids that have your same dream, and now you're becoming the first, what is believed to be the first play-by-play announcer with Native American heritage. So what sense of pride does that give you, and how do you think you can help all of these kids from around the country?
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. It's amazing. It's something I didn't think about enough as a kid. And so when you get older, you know, that stuff means more, and it resonates with a bunch of different people. And my family's so proud, man. Like, you know, I've been talking about it a lot more openly in public, and just the awareness of it. Just me talking about it is great for someone that doesn't know anything about it. Take 5 minutes to Google my tribe, Native American tribes in general, something about Native Americans, and then, you know, they're better off for it because they can understand, because a lot of that story has been lost. A lot of that history has been lost about how things unfolded when other people came over to the land. So, you know, people seeing my bolo tie, oh, what is that? You know, reach out to me on social media. I'll gladly respond. Email me. And, you know, it starts a conversation. And so, again, kids seeing that and realizing, all right, I can do it too, because I didn't grow up on a reservation, but a lot of natives do, and it's tough and it's hard, and a lot of times you don't think you can make it out, but you can if you have a passion, if you work hard, you make connections. You can do whatever you want to. And so my story is hopefully one that can help people in that aspect of it. And especially in basketball, like, Indian country loves hoops. It's the most popular sport for Native Americans. And that's, you know, I always wonder, why do I love basketball so much? It's in my blood. It is what it is. Like, that's it. It makes so much sense. And so just that connection is fantastic. And so I'm going to do my part for sure to be there for people like that. That want to pursue this industry or something similar, or even just have a conversation about getting to your dreams, your aspirations. It doesn't have to be the NBA. It doesn't have to be play-by-play. It could be anything. But just to give some perspective and to be there for them is big time. So I'm super fortunate to be in this position, and I don't take it lightly, and I will always, you know, try and talk about it as much as I can.
Last thing for you real quick, Jacob. Obviously, the regular season starting next week. You guys got one more dress rehearsal before that gets underway. Is there a game that you have circled on the regular season calendar, and why is it against the Celtics?
No, I mean, I know when that is, you know, February 12th. It's, you know, my family's already, like, you know, getting tickets and wanting to see me there. So that it's more just to see my family. That's the main thing.
I'm sure they're hyped.
They're hype, you know. Do I have a game circled? No. The next game. That's so standard to say, but it is the next game for me. Like, I'm a young guy in the business. I want to get better each and every day, and so whatever game is that night is my championship, is my NBA Finals, and that's how I got here, man. Like, I called Division III basketball like it was the NBA Finals. I called junior college basketball in the middle of nowhere. As a big playoff game. And, like, you have to bring that mindset every single night. You know, it doesn't matter what record the other team has. It doesn't matter what record the Spurs have. Hopefully it's a great one. But, like, the NBA is so amazing because it's probably the hardest sport to make as a pro. And, you know, some of these guys that are on the end of these benches are so talented and have great stories. And so, you know, to be able to amplify those things is great. So no game circled. I've I'm looking forward to traveling for sure. You know, I've actually been to like 7 countries in Europe, but I haven't necessarily traveled a ton around the U.S. And so that's going to be amazing. But it's the next game for me. You know, I'll prepare the same way each and every night, get better each and every single night, be there for fans every single night, and go kill it with Sean. Have fun. It's a great job that I have, an amazing job where I get to talk about basketball, have fun, be excited, and watch, you know, hopefully one of the next great teams in the NBA grow for the next decade. And I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
All right. Well, Jacob is a heck of a guy, and that was a heck of an interview that he gave us. So, I mean, can't ask for more than that. I'm excited to hear him call games all year long with Sean Elliott, man.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, if you're, you know, quote unquote, the new guy, right? What better guy to be able to kind of break onto the scene with than Sean Elliott? I mean, that guy plays well with everybody.
I can't wait to see what the tagline is. We had "Oh Mama" with Bill Land. I can't wait to see what he develops naturally, as most announcers do. What kind of his signature phrase is. So we'll see. But we got a lot of Spurs coming next week as the season tips off 1 week from today. It's here. It's here already. We'll talk a lot about it next week. We'll talk a lot more Cowboys next week. Who knows what Jerry Jones is going to say. But until then, we'll see you then.